everyone. Welcome to FMA Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Tim, and tonight I am joined by the host of FMA Discussion, Dean Franco. How you doing, Dean?
Good. How are you? But you forgot also the co-host.
The co-host, yeah.
The occasional co-host of FMA.
The occasional co-host. He wants me to move his paycheck over by a decimal point.
Yeah.
Zero, still zero.
So, yeah, tonight's agenda. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's funny. Just as you mentioned comments, people are messaging me here. So here we go. We have Eric from Portland chiming in. So make sure when you say hello, you tell us what part of the world you are hanging out from, and we'll go there. Yeah. So today's show is going to be about whether or not FMA systems are on the verge of extinction or not. So,
okay, it's been covered, directly, indirectly. I had a show on it addressing, not in a general sense, but more, it was a couple specific systems that, I had concern about and still do have concern about. But I think today, we're coming across more in a general lens.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll I will name some names that I'm gonna use Modern Anissa's situation as we get closer to it. I'm not going to talk about what it is, but we're going to talk about a system that I think that's doing a really good job. Maybe not all the branches are doing well, but so let me I just had to get that last one going. Here's the big question: will the arts survive past today's instructors? Now, if you're just training just to train, you don't care, then I get it, you don't care. And Carl Altram is saying hello from Canada. How you doing, Carl? If it does, some people just do it for themselves, and there's nothing more than that. There's nothing wrong with that either.
Extracurricular activity, getting off the couch, exercise.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Socialization.
But and listen, those guys, I want them to chime in because they may have some good insight. They might have some comments that like, hey, I never thought of things this way, that way, or the other way. And just because they may not care doesn't mean that they don't necessarily have input on the topic.
And if they're new, they probably not even know.
Yeah. The other thing here is that I don't disregard someone's opinion just because they may not be full-time or invested in it or whatever, because good ideas are not I know people who are in the arts that have terrible ideas. I have people who are outside the arts that have great ideas. So, it's all good. It's all good. Okay. Boom. Here we go. Easy. Okay. For Dexter says hello. That must be some Tagalog. And then words says, when are we doing Robbie interview? Robbie D'Onofrio. Okay. Well, I'm assuming that's what they're talking about. I can get him on the show. I happen to know him. And I just want to throw that one out there. It's funny. Everyone's been busting my chops and talking smack about all of this stuff that I've been saying and doing. So I just want to talk about it. The videos finally came out, and Robbie and I got to hang out, and we're buds. I mean, we were buds, but people took it way too seriously. And how it started was someone asked me, hey, Tim, how would you feel like doing a counterpoint video series with Robbie D'Onofrio? I said, I got no problem with it. Oh, that's great, because he already filmed one on you. And here we go. Hello, Mr. Dean.
Hey, how are you?
I've had some people make comments. Oh, I hate all your videos. Oh, you watched all 400 videos, and not one of them has anything good to offer. The whole thing here is, if you're going to do stuff on social media, you need to do controversial things to get the analytics to work in your favor. And when Robbie and I talked prior, during, and after, he and I have had no problem with each other. We bust each other's chops like family does. But, you know, we also know why we like the styles of martial arts that we like. Yeah. And just because he's wrong by doing BJJ doesn't mean he's a bad guy.
Don't hold it against him.
Maybe a little, but no.
Speaking of videos, I'm not going to say it obviously here. Do you have that one coming up in May that we talked about in Saratoga with your BJJ guy? I'll send you a message later.
Yeah, send me later. Yeah, or we'll talk in the post show. I got a bunch of things coming up, but
this one would have been really.
There might. Okay, listen. Listen. And I think we're going to do a show about social media again. You know, actually, so Robbie and I did the one where we went back and forth, and you got to watch it. It's funny as all hell. I think I hear you've been calling my ARPA JJ. Yes, and well, it's big talk for someone who, you know. Maybe I'll pull guard on you. Like, wait, I'm going to take your shoes off? That might take 2.5 minutes. I got time. What about putting your spandex outfit on? Well, that may take longer. Well, you don't have a stick. I always have a stick. I can take any size stick. And I was like, are we still talking about martial arts? I think so. And then we give each other a big hug, and it was over. It was hilarious. It was funny as all. And you know what? Somebody was like, stop this stuff. Stop it. I'm like, really? Like, it's humor. Get over yourself. Oh my! And you know, at the end of the day, and I'm probably doing a video on this too. The people that usually comment, I would say the majority of them are freaking clueless morons that are just trolls, because all the serious martial artists, or at least the well-adjusted martial artists, are too busy doing martial arts. Yeah, they understand,
or other stuff.
I mean, like I said, I think the other show the last time you were on, we were talking about some people who were probably that inspired the show, maybe not that well adjusted. But you know, it is what it is. But we have a lot more content coming out, and there'll be some fun stuff. Edward Scissorhands challenged me to a fight against his dog. So that'll be an interesting one. I don't know how that match is going to go. I will say this, a little bad news. Last week, Tuesday, I was told that my dog had 3 months to live due to bone cancer. And when I got back home Sunday morning at 1:30 in the morning, my dog came running downstairs. Didn't feel too good, so I spent the night with him downstairs in the family room sleeping, and he passed away at 12:30 on Mother's Day afternoon. So you will not see my furry co-host. My other fur baby, she just stays out of the way. But and for all the people that commented, I'm feeling good right at this moment. But generally speaking, you know, if I want to talk about it, I will bring it up myself, because I'll know when I can bring it up. But it was really rough, because thinking about it, and it was as if he knew he was going to die, and he waited for me to get home. And then it was just, you know, less than 10 hours later, he was gone. So it's I was a mess. I'm dealing with it. I still have some bad moments, but we won't be seeing him anymore. And for all those people out there who have sent me your prayers, I greatly appreciate it. And that's about all I can say before I'm beginning to go down that path again. So let's get with the show.
So I've been thinking about this. I think there's more to this than, like, we've you know, like, I've covered this directly, and it's come up indirectly. And in my opinion, it comes down to three things. It's like, okay, we've already identified over several times, like, the need for the farm team to get kids to perpetuate these arts. And that's been covered, you know, extensively. But I think there's two other things, and it could be even more than two other things, that I think really make it where it's difficult, or will be difficult, as far as the future lands. And one of them is that our lens from the other martial arts community that are looking at FMA, and I think a lot of them, when they look at it, like, and I know this because I've spoken to people like in the combative world and all that, and I'll ask them like, hey, so what do you think about FMA? And when it comes to a knife, they're pretty honest. They're just saying like, I don't understand how they think they're going to make some of that stuff work, not from an offensive lens, but defense. And they said it's over drilling, and just it seems like very artsy and all that. They have a proper respect for the Dog Brothers, if those who that were aware of them. So I think there's an outside lens that looks at FMA but doesn't really know what to make of it, because they see a lot of this choreograph and stuff like that, the art, which a lot of them kind of admitted there was obviously some aesthetic appeal to it. The last third is the hypersensitivity. Like every time we bring something like this, there's emotional baggage. Like it's really hard to go forward with this stuff because you got to just deal with like adults who just get emotionally distraught and take it personal when you're critiquing or trying to allude to them that this could be a problem area. And sometimes if you identify their art as potentially so I think there's more to it than the farm team getting the youth coming up. I think.
Well, let's talk about that last one, because so here's what I'm going to say right off the bat. Society has gotten weak. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, it's like you got to be careful, like what you say. It's just like this ultra sensitivity or PC, and I think it's gone to like.
Screw that. I mean, okay, listen, I'm blunt. I'm blunt. I know that. I'm okay. So I cut through the minutia and get right to the point. I'm not trying to insult people.
Right.
But sometimes I also get frustrated, which is where my emotion comes from, my intensity comes from. We were talking about this. I'm always talking about this. People have gotten weak. Okay, I mean, listen.
Weak. I think it's over. I think I'm not.
Well, no, I mean, like, I mean, yeah, but I mean, like, my mere words offend you. Well, and it's a two-sided thing. People are hypocritical. They get upset,
right,
when someone says something that they don't like, but they don't consider how people feel about the words that they say either. So there's definitely hypocrisy.
Yeah, well, people. Yeah, I mean, the hypocrisy is a whole nother added dimension to that. But
I mean, grow up. Do we need safe spaces?
You know what comes down to? A lot of times it's critique versus criticism. In other words, I'll ask you like, hey, I'm just asking like, why are you doing it that way? Have you thought? And so a very genuine critique can easily get misconstrued, and you're criticizing me. Well, who are you to question what I'm doing? In other words, you can't even get like through a question like that. How can we tackle bigger stuff? Like, for instance, some of these systems dying out. Here's what we can. And I know your system got identified there, and then the avalanche of emotional. So it's hard. I mean, it's, and I'm not saying some of it's not just, but there is that hypersensitivity, and I kind of agree with you. I think it's an overflow of our society, right?
Yeah, and okay, so hard times make hard people.
Yeah, I mean, like that generation, like my father. Yeah, I think it's
good times. Yeah, good time breeds soft people. And I mean, and like, listen, right now. Okay, I'm gonna risk getting political. I don't want to go this way. They're talking about. Every time you say something, everyone's worrying about every demographic out there. Everyone's worried about this, that, and the other thing. And everyone's like, right now, the transgender athlete things becomes is crazy. And my position is real here. I would want one to be fair, period. And if you need to separate men and women, genetically men and women. I'm not going to get versus sex versus gender and all this other crap, because, now, I'm just talking about basically how I was brought up. If boys and girls are separated because there's an unfair advantage to this, that, or the other thing, then we need to keep them separated where it makes sense. if there's something that they can compete on, even, or depending on what we're talking about, like like you go to martial art tournament, forms are mixed gender.
Yeah.
But when it comes to contact after a certain age, puberty kicks in. But now you've got so for me, it's about the safety more than being fair. I don't even want to say that I'm not concerned about it being fair. Paramount is safety. And when you have a transgender, and I don't even know which direction it goes. I mean, it's a man who identifies as a woman. Is that a transgender woman? Is that how we'd say it?
I believe so, but please don't quote me on this because I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have a man who's transitioned to be a woman, which is the ones we hear about all the time.
Transgender woman. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're a transgender woman that was fighting in MMA and fractured 3 women's skulls.
Which is not. I mean, that's not fair. I mean, think about it. There's potential injury, right? I mean, 100% on that. And I have a firm stand on that. Again, certainly don't want to get political and go down a rabbit hole.
No. Okay, I would prefer to critique and the honesty. One of the reasons I like Datu Tim, he tells it like it is. And listen, when I'm doing it on the show, obviously we're a little more, it's for the show's sake as well. But I mean, like when I talk to people, I don't like, what do you, moron? I'm like, well, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And I want to talk. I'm not trying to insult people, but I'm also about getting to the point. Now, if after we get past the safety things, then I want things to be fair. And the thing here is this: we can argue all you want, but the one thing is that no one's saying that a transgender woman can't go off the hormones, which means things got going back to the way they are. And I actually know women who have won races, who race running races, and they're racing against transgender women. And they say, and then they stop taking their hormones, and all of a sudden their performance goes up. And, things start changing. I've talked to a bunch of my vendors in the Philippines are ladyboys. And so we'll talk in general, like, well, tell me about this. This is a whole new, are you doing an operation? Are you doing hormones? Okay, I'll take hormones. Okay, so what happens when you go off the hormones? We start changing back to being men. I mean, we're always men, which is cool that they actually talk about it openly, but they talk about how their male features and stuff, musculature and stuff, start going back. So, to me, everything's about being fair. And when we talk about these things, people get all upset trying to say, I'm concerned. I've got my friend Sebastian, which is not his name, is now Sabrina. Best friend I had for the longest time. We were skate rats together. We went everywhere. I had his back when shit was going to go down, when older kids were picking on his brother, like teenagers, and I rolled in with them. And every time I see Sebastian, I call him Sabrina, as he wants to be called. But genetically, he's always going to be a male. He'll never have kids. Love him to death. He'll always be my boy. I've known him for over 4 decades, but I respect him when I see him by addressing him the way he wants to. But it's still my boy Sebastian, and we can talk about differences, but why do we have to get all offended? And the same with techniques. You and I could sit there and go, if you ask me, Tim, why do I do this and not this? I could give you an answer. I'm not intimidated by you. You ask a question, I go, I prefer this methodology because
I mean, most people can make discern between our critique versus criticism. But I'm telling you right now, in FMA discussion, you see it all the time. Some can't. And now you see the arguing and all that because
do you find that is the people from the Philippines that might have a language issue?
No, actually.
Or other cultures or other nationalities that
I find it more with the Americans. I mean, now I say that of the ones I've seen and noticed. I gotta be honest, I don't see, while I don't approve every post that comes in FMA discussion, first off, and I certainly don't see every post, particularly the volume that's been coming in as of late. I only go in there and scroll down if a particular post has a lot of comments. That's generally speaking where you're going to get some negative activity. But from the ones that I have witnessed this, And I'm not saying it's all. I mean, because again, I just mentioned I don't see everything, but it was a few Americans that just got really defensive.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think that this could be because of the wrong mindsets that they were taught in, as in like bad habits from their teachers? How dare you?
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, and I'm not saying that is certainly not part of it or an issue. But when somebody, but like I always look at how things are worded before I remove a comment or I message somebody. I really look at the verbiage and the diction, and I try to find like, okay, is there a way this person just took this, the wrong? I mean, like, how did this go on? And a lot of times, regardless of the individual's background as far as training, I mean, a general simple question. I mean, come on now. You know what I mean? I don't care what your training was like. I mean, you should be able to answer a simple question that's not attacking you.
Well, I mean, I understand initially when Westerners were interacting with Europeans. I mean, with not the Europeans. We were Europeans mostly. We were dealing with the Asians, and we would ask questions because there's a big cultural thing because a lot of it was.
I think that was back. Yeah, with the language. Yeah, I could see that. But there was no language barrier in the what I witnessed. So
hello from Detroit, or did they begin in other martial arts? Maybe Americans transfer from style. They do. Hello, hey Errol, how you doing?
PG Errol.
Then I'm always willing to. If you're offering to host something, I'd be more than happy to go out to Rhode Island. I'm actually, hopefully, Tim Gillette's supposed to be coming to my school this weekend. I'm looking.
Really?
Yeah, he's coming to the camp that I invited you. That you decided not to show up to because you're snobby. Oh, did I say that out loud?
No, it's because I got it's my twins' birthday weekend. So
there we go.
Yeah, so I mean, I could, but I don't think.
No, I know. Listen, hey, you get away a lot. So, no, but I think I wonder how much of that has been bred in the system versus how much that is been just people being. I don't know. I mean, I'm Gen X.
I think I would have to lean towards people. Yes, you could be under system and you see the behavior above you, and therefore you model that behavior, which is obviously negative in the case we're talking about. However, though, at the end of the day, you're an adult. So I still put it back on
you would individual. Think.
I mean, good point. But yeah, so I put it back on, on the adult. I mean, come on. If somebody's asking a simple question, I've seen it very just genuine question, and people and just seen some get bent out of shape, and it's just like, wow. I mean, like he was just asking you a question, So it's again, I throw it on the adult. But the thing that we're talking about, though. Granted, we're talking about on a smaller scale, these incidents that happen, you know what I mean? Like there's 19,000 FMA discussion. I mean, so this is not a daily occurrence, right? And nor do I want to make it seem worse than it is. But that's on a very small scale. If we look at the bigger scale of like what we're talking about today, you can kind of see sometimes like it's hard to kind of even discuss some of these things without getting like, the sensitivity in some regards, or were they perceived as attacks or like that. And when you're actually like, for instance, I got some flack during a KI episode, and I was talking about a couple systems. And if they done any background or research into what I was doing, they would actually see that I heavily promoted these systems and I was fully behind them and advocate for them and held them in high regard. So they will actually see and know that, that I'm trying to do something to perpetuate these things, trying to problem solve, trying into there. You know what I mean? Like anybody knowing my background would easily see this, but there's some, it didn't come across that way, which to me,
and that's it. I mean, okay. And I get it. I mean, so, as an idea. There, there's a lot of people that think I'm an arrogant prick. My persona on the internet is a little in your face at times, right? But we've hung out together. Do you think that that's a misconception of people out there who I am and versus my persona?
I think it, again, have you sat down with the person at a table, just you and them, with no distractions or influences? That's how I go about judging somebody. Like social media, the dynamic, what you're trying to achieve out of it, and then if you base your sole perception of that person's personality on that, I think that could lead to erroneous conclusions without talking to that person. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that happens, a lot for sure.
Well, I talk to Janice. We'll watch something, or I talk to somebody else. I go, so one of my guys acquaintances does security work. And I'm always afraid of asking how certain people are.
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt because I was going to share. Are you running this live on Facebook?
Yeah, I saw it on Facebook too. I did look at it.
So okay, I'm sorry. I'll find it and then I'll share it to the group. Okay,
it's on Datu Hartman.
Got it.
You see all these actors and actresses, you see all these professional sports people and wrestlers and this, that, and the other thing. And like a lot of times I'll watch movies and TV shows. I'm like, man, I hope this guy's as nice as they portray him. I'm like, you look at who played Batman? Which one? Batman. The Dark Knight. That was Christian Bale, right?
Somebody else posted here. Somebody was a Batman prequel.
Yeah, Christian Bale, if I'm not mistaken. So, and he is a nightmare on set. Absolute nightmare on set.
Oh, from like other actors talking about
it? And stunt people. So then you talk about, like, you give stories about, Bruce Lee, and there's mixed things, but they're like, everything I heard about Bruce was always like the best of all the stuntmen and stuff like that. Allegedly, there may have been some shit going on during the Green Hornet, but his movies, that I hear nothing but good things. Okay. So like sometimes though, like one of the guys that does bodyguard work talked about two very large, very well-known superstars of the action world, and they were a lot smaller due to their age, and they were kind of porky, as in, attitude wise. And I'm like, and I see people, I hope this guy is as nice as he portrays, because he really comes off really cool. Then you meet somebody else and so. Let me get caught up in these comments real quick. So Terrell, I appreciate that, my friend. I'm gonna say, what is this? How
do you define a system versus an art?
System versus, okay. Okay, so let me. System versus art. Well, we can go back.
I believe.
Oh, that's yes. System versus art. Okay,
yeah,
that's what he wrote. Let me just get caught up on a couple of these, and we'll address that specific comment. Hello, Dean, Datu and Dean, Terrell. Big misconception. You are a straight shooter. Thank you. Do you think practitioners from various styles find flaws in other ways and rather benefit? Hey, brother, man, from Tijuana. Our boys down there. Love it. I find Datu's willing to bend over backwards and answer questions or help. Okay. And then Datu is just willing to kind of be. I am not going to send you any more checks. And let me get back. So system versus art. So that's an interesting question. I
look at codification versus expression.
So like I go system versus style. System is the methodology, where style is your personal interpretation. So like when people sit there and say, Tim, what's your style? I go, my style is Tim Rue, the way of Tim, but the methodology is always the Praces family systems, modernist being the the core of all those. But I don't know, and if that's, I mean, there's Marshall and John Savage says hello. How you doing, John?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see him in a couple days, hopefully, because the Williams are coming out.
Oh yeah.
But they can drop by and pick you up.
Yeah, it's funny. Not to we'll get back to the gentleman's question. Like they're having friends over. It's going to be nuts here. So
I get you. No, I'm just going to tease you.
What I'm saying is though, I'm going to need like to take breaks and leave here because it's not like they're going to have their friends over. They're not going to want me involved. But at the same time, I can't be that far removed. Yeah.
I get you. Yeah, because sooner or later they're going to need you to do something.
Yeah.
So to me, there's martial art, martial sport, martial combat. I mean, combat is the combatives. Martial sport is the competition. Martial art is more the expression of things. But ultimately, I look at style versus system. So system is your methodology. Style is how you interpret that. That's just me. And you don't agree with me.
No, but it's when you hear system, there's a codification. There's an aspect of codification, whether it's on a piece of paper, outline, whatever. Art, the expression, like I'm expressing the art. You know what I mean? So, I think one system kind of lends itself to objectivity, or the subjective aspect, right?
Yep. So, I don't necessarily. I think what hurts us when we're talking about, I mean, we're going to talk about the basics too, but we'll talk about this specifically because it is a interesting concept here. How do people perceive us? I don't think people perceive us in a bad way, but I think when they start interacting with us, a bunch of us turn people off because they also don't.
Again, one of the things I do with intention, if I'm talking to somebody like at Saratoga or whatever, and they're not really FMA affiliated or they dabbled, I always like to just I get there. So I ask a very broad question. Yeah, say, hey, what do you think about FMA overall? And then if they give me where they kind of have some insight, I'll go deeper and a little more specific with the questions. Well, what do you think about knife? What do you think about the sticks work that you see? And a lot of the answers is that a lot of, they see a lot of play and, drilling and all that. And mind you, when I say combatant, I mean, combatives, right? I mean, we kind of know what that means as far as that community goes. So I'm not saying every person I talk to has this, but one of the interesting things is when they, the empty hand against knife is where, they just said like they just have no idea. Those who do it from a combative lens, they just say they have no idea how they could make that, how that could work and this and that. And they see some of the stick stuff seems very drill centric. Those who knew about the Dog Brothers, profound respect. And again, this is a sampling that I do, but I make a point to do this because I'm just generally curious what the outside lens, those who are not really in FMA, like how they view us.
Well, I will say this. Actually, I had someone wish me a birthday wishing, and then made comments about my videos, which they admitted that they didn't watch. And now the day before, I found out that Tira was diagnosed with cancer. And then, of course, I responded last night after losing my fur baby. And so I'm fresh off of that. So I'm going to make my comment. And even if this person happens to be listening, that's fine, because I'm not trying to be insulted, because I'm not going to call the person out by name and all this other stuff. But once the first thing here, without seeing any of my stuff, you really shouldn't be commenting. You should be asking questions.
There you go. Like, hey, I'm wondering why you're doing that. Like, but that's what I mean. Like, they're just they're like vultures. They just,
well, and I'll do this. I'm going to open up a can of worms here. Paulo Rubio made a video about disarming, and he talked about why it wasn't going to work the way people teach it. And well, as I did a 20+ minute video on this, and we also did some other stuff, I go, he did it in a manner that it was supposed to fail, because first and foremost, it wasn't real because it was two trained fighters. In most situations, that's not going to be the case. Secondly, the opponent, the attacker, had no concern about being hit back because that wasn't the exercise. And all these things could have went down. And the thing here is now, and I made my comments and stuff like that. And then later he starts, well, listen, Tim does exactly what I'm complaining about. He's hypocritical. No, you're taking video from a 60 to 90 seconds. You're doing all my stories and shorts, which is just an insight talking about the technique, not showing how to train for non-compliance, which I talk to on a regular basis. Before we comment, we should be asking questions. And a lot of people make a lot of assumptions. And I think that's where a lot of the stuff goes down that rabbit hole. And when you ask a question, trying to be an intelligent person, they then start getting twisted. When I first started dealing with the West Coast Filipino scene, martial artists out there, I was shocked on the nonsense that they had gone through. And I remember having Michael Harone over, and he's come to Buffalo a whole bunch of times. And the one time we went out, and this is before COVID, and a whole bunch of us from other martial arts schools all met at a restaurant, with a bar in it, and we all hung out, having beers, having food, having whatever, talking smack and comparing notes in the middle of a restaurant. And he's like, dude, this would never happen in California this way. Everyone, and I get it. There's a whole bunch of things that it's I don't want to say cultural. Well, it's cultural, not because it's Filipino, because it's West Coast.
Okay.
And they're all on top of each other. They're all in each other's backyards. And, over here, like everyone's like 15, 20 minutes away, which is a long distance in Buffalo. It's not a short distance. We're not like 2 blocks away from each other. And some people are poaching each other's students because they don't know how to get their own students. And it was just a whole different atmosphere. And I'm like, why is so guarded? Why is all this? And I think outsiders looking in may see that and like, what is your problem? And then not wanting to be part of that problem. But before let me do this. What I want to do is cover the basics just so everyone understands it. Like, how can we help this before we go down the rabbit hole too far? So first of all, I think system is the concepts and the art perceived and practice the concept. Okay, there we go. And then Matt Jones always makes funny stories. Antonio, my brother, how you doing? Hello, Masters. Well, there's one of us. just teasing. There's 2 of us. I
never want Master before my name. So
I count as
totally fine with that.
Questions should never be perceived as an insult. And we have David from Virginia. Hey, David. So, listen, like I said, there's going to be, I think the basics, we got to look at a couple things. And like I said, before we forget to touch on these, here's the thing. I think some arts are looking on, and let me talk about, give an example of some stuff and maybe why they're doing better than others. I think Pikiti Tertia is in a very strong position.
Pending the faction.
Well, I'm not saying, okay, so if you look at Jared Wahongi, he is rock solid.
Pending the faction.
He's on point. I can't comment about Tim Wade.
I don't know enough about, I can't either.
Apollo Laja, he's doing pretty good, but he's got cross-pollination in other arts.
Taekwondo, he's affiliated with those Taekwondo schools.
He's in the ATA. I mean, he was an ATA Taekwondo guy. That's
right. I have to say he's probably doing pretty good.
So he gets to tap into things, just like
what Remy did, right?
Yeah. I mean, Remy tapped into the small circle, like Remy Wally and George Dillon, all the 3 of those guys. All 3 of them had a bunch of students in common. They would all cross-pollinate. Right. So, when you have that kind of stuff, I mean, more power to it. And why not do that? Right. How about another quick Remy story?
You gotta be kidding me.
I'll think about it.
Is that what tonight's topic is? I guess
always enterprise. There we go. How about another quick Remy Pracis memory story, Tim? Let me think about that. I just got to think about one I haven't told yet. So I think if you look at,
you know what it does. If the people come in questions like that and it's not within the flow of conversation, I just write them down because it just disrupts the flow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think the first thing here is you need to have a gene pool, and there's other groups out there, which I don't want to name their names, but
right.
When your average age is 49 or older, when people start aging out of systems, that's not good. And you got to have the youth there. Now, I'm not going to say kids, because some people are intimidated by teaching children, and maybe their system of martial arts is a little problematic towards that. But there are PTK groups out there that I don't expect they're all around the same age, and I'm expecting a lot of people to age out and start quitting. So that branch, there's some branches out there that once the current generation of instructors are done teaching, I don't think that branch will have any more representation, whether it be by name or just by legacy. I mean, obviously, if someone branches off and starts a new, okay, so I was with Remy Pracis, International Modernist Federation. I'm the World Modernist Alliance. Something happens to me and my guys decide that they can't or don't want to stay together, but they want to start their own modernist organizations. The lineage keeps going. So that's all that really matters. It'd be great underneath the WMAA. But the thing here is I'm more concerned about the art than my name continuing on. I'm the creator of the World Modernist Alliance. Got it. Good. What happens if it becomes the International Modernist conglomerate? That's fine too, as long as the people are still doing the art. That's all that matters to me in the long run. I've already done all my personal accolades.
But here's the thing though, there's also the aspect of selfishness and selfless. So in other words, if your general concern is that you want to see the art continue, and whether it's under you or somebody else, then you have a genuine care for that. I don't know if that's across the board. You know what I mean? And
I get you. Yeah. I get you. I mean, when I was just down in Jacksonville a couple of weeks ago, the one of the things I said multiple times, and I think Tuhan GT Gahe did this. I want to become no longer relevant. I want to become obsolete. I want to get to the point.
He kind of has already.
Well, he has. No. I said, this is what I want to do. And he's done that. Right now, I want to get the group going that when I want everyone to bring me in because they want me, not bring me in because they need me.
Yeah.
And right now, like in Canada, we've been doing great. I mean, my numbers in Canada are better than what Remy had going on when he was alive. I would still like to see the numbers double, and then I'd be content. The States, they need to quintuple, or if not more. But I mean, we're in countries
touched upon, like that matters to you. You care about that. I think there's some folks that maybe have surrendered to the fact, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if that's their value system and they don't really care, who the hell are we to tell them that, oh, you got to perpetuate this? I mean, I don't know. They might not all even care about that, whether it continues past them. You know what I mean? We care.
Well, I think
everybody else does.
I think in the modern Arnis world, there's a bunch of people out there who have, it's very obvious. I've heard conversations, I heard podcasts, and it was shocking on how little I hear people talk about the future and how much they talk about themselves. And I talk about the future all the time. I talk about the things that I've done to get here. And I encourage people to listen and take notes, because if it helps them, they might be able to take it to the level beyond. And I don't want them to rebuild after I'm gone. I want them to build off of what we've done.
Sure.
I remember I'm in the Chamber of Commerce meeting. I'm one of the board members, and the one meeting was one of the last things. And I brought up at the following meeting. I'm like, the comment was, each chamber board needs to do things on their own merit. And then when we came back to the next one, I go, all right, you brought this up. Yeah, they do. I go, you're right, 100%. But they need to but we want them to build off of all the work that we've done, not have to start over from scratch. It's just like, how many times are we going to redo the Superman story or the Batman story? How many reboots are we going to go through? I think we all know Superman came from Krypton, and Batman's father was killed, and their parents were killed in front of him. Let's move beyond that. And that's the same thing I see in martial arts all the time. Why do we have to rebuild when we could build off of someone else's work?
Yeah, I guess don't fix what's broken. Just continue to make it go. If that's the interest at heart and what everybody wants to do. But I think there's another thing too. I firmly believe, and again, I don't take pleasure in wanting to be right or need to be right. But I believe there's some systems they're not gonna be able to help it. Whether it's an age thing, a demographic thing, they just can't get new influx in, or the competition within the style, the system, or whatever is so great they just can't compete. I just think there's going to be some of that, even though they might have the best interest at heart and what they want to do. I think the external factors sometimes are going to be really difficult for them to overcome,
Well, I definitely, I think if they go forward, they need to have young blood, which doesn't mean it has to be children.
No, agreed. But it has to be young, like we talked about. I use the term farm team just as an acronym or analogy.
But that being said, though, if you're not teaching children, you're missing a complete demographic, and these 100%. Are gateway programs to bring in these kids to you, or more importantly, bring their parents into you.
Let's look at demographics. You're in the middle. Let's just use the worst, the toughest spot, based on feedback. So you're in the middle of the states, and you're trying to grow, FMA and all that. And you got a demographic issue. You're competing with MMA, BJJ, which are household names. In other words, this is what I'm kind of alluding to. I think it's just going to be difficult for them to sustain outside of maybe a few backyard or whatever you want to classify it. But I think geographically speaking, demographics, competition, external factors, I think some of these smaller, it's just going to be tough, whether they're a faction under an umbrella system or they're a system that's just fading out because there's one person left that's teaching it,
All right, let me see here. FMA will fade eventually because they are heavily influenced by family secrets.
Maybe over there, but not here.
And FMA would be promoted to national perspective. Okay, that's their thought. Let me see. What do you think about misconception of FMA in the States?
The misconceptions.
Hey, how you doing? So, good, Tim. First of all,
on that,
I think Dean is right. And I talk about it all the time. I've talked about my shows. So when I say this, I'm not putting this on Dean. I've said this a whole shitload of times. There's too much cosplay in what we do. And and here's the thing. You can do all this cosplay, but call it what it is.
That's the thing. Like the outside looks at it and they're like, oh, they're trying to sell this as like self-defense. And they know they've been in there, the trenches, and they're just like, come on now.
Yeah. You watch my videos, even though they're only 60 to 90 seconds long, you will hear me talking about skill development when I'm doing a skill development drill. Now, the trolls don't hear that. Well, screw the trolls. They just give me more reason to pick on them. So, but the fact of the matter here is, when I teach something that's about position recognition and study of movement, I'll mention that. When I talk about something that's about building up coordination or strength or speed or whatever, I'll talk about it. I'll talk about how you would do the technique as a combative move and then how you would change it to turn it into a drill. And how you turn into a drill to build those skill developments. Okay, here we go. So
Which comes down to context. No word, like you just said. Like a lot of these folks, and I'm telling you, I see this every day coming in from a discussion. They'll show something, they'll explain like the actual techniques, what they're doing, left hand, whatever, pulse, whatever, but there's no context. Like they're not showing, hey, we're just doing the art here. We're not saying this would work, but it's kind of coming across as a selling point that, hey, this is something you can do off a jab cross. And when you look at some of this stuff from an empty hand lens and their arms left out, it's just like, it's not going to happen.
Okay, so how would you define cosplay in this context? Well, okay, so I've watched a whole bunch of styles in modern.
Go to FMA Discussion. You'll see.
Yeah, you just watch any post there. Wow, we're almost 40 people watching live. Here's good. Listen, when I'm doing drills and as one of cosplay, so I do tappy. Okay. For those who don't know, tappy, it's similar to the Balintawak, Sagitas, and the Caratus. And I talk about, you look at it, that's two trained players going back and forth. You watch Sabayan drill in Pikiti Tertia, two trained players back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
You watch people do Hubud. And like I've got people that are teaching hardcore sword and dagger techniques. Like that's going to happen today. You might as well be doing medieval reenactment. I mean, actually, here we go. So dressing up at the Ren Fair and doing fencing there. Okay. So a lot of Filipino martial arts are doing the Filipino version of that. They're trying to dress up in traditional garb or not. And then they're doing their historical combat versus modern day applications. What are the odds on two people walking around getting in a fight that they both coincidentally have sword and dagger on them?
Yeah.
You might as well be live at LARPing, cosplay, or just going to a Ren Fair. Shit don't happen that way.
But they articulate. But here's the thing, though. It could come across a lot better than what someone going. In other words, let's use long and short, for example, spotty dagger. If they were saying, hey, look, yes, you're not going to be carrying around a sword and knife. However, this is developing recognition and reaction. This is the recovery of center mass. And we're getting the offhand in play with it there. So we're getting synchronization, bilateral. If they explain it that way, they would be like, hey, man, I can appreciate that. I understand I wouldn't have a sword dagger, but I can appreciate some of the things that it brings out if maybe two empty hands. You know what I mean? But it's not done that way.
Yeah, no. Or let's do this way. When I talk about multiple weapons, multi-weapons, two-handed weapons. So I'm using double stick or stick and dagger, specifically this stick and dagger. What I'm talking about is when I'm doing my stick and dagger, it's not about me having a sword and dagger or a stick and dagger. It's about getting my live hand in there. So if I see this vortex of violence and I say, all right, pop with my stick, now throw your hand there and punch the person in the face. Hell no. Oh, here's a knife. Now stab him in the throat. Damn straight I will. Because then you get that motor memory going. It's easier for me to use a weapon and put it in there and then take it out later. To me, like when I do my stick and dagger, I do a stick and dagger. It's actually my Panatukan stick boxing program. As martial artists, we would like to think that we can punch, kick, lock, throw, and weapon all the time, but it doesn't happen that way. I put a stick in my hand. The body has 9 natural weapons: hands, feet, knees, elbows, and head. You put a weapon in the hand, you forget about the rest of the weapons. So when I want to start punching, what do? I put a dagger in my hand and I start doing drills with that. And then I put the dagger down and I use a stick and a pad, and we're doing like boxing mitts with one hand and a stick in the other. And you make that connection and that transition. But we talked about it.
Yeah.
And even if these guys have every intention on doing that, you cannot. No one can get to the destination if they don't know where it is. You got to show them the path. How do you hit a goal that you don't know what it is?
No. They have to show something, but they have to be more articulate, and they have to really, because that's what's getting laughed at. They're seeing two people doing this stuff. There's no context. There's no elaboration on like why they're doing this, and therefore people are looking at it like, there. It's like, okay, here's another thing about which is really creates comedy hour. Dumog. Okay, so all the 500 plus interviews I've done, Dumog has become a generic term that anybody can be thrown under the umbrella of Dumog if it's a grappling oriented thing. So, okay. So when you do that, so when people hear that, so then it's a term that it really doesn't exist as a separate entity that was Filipino. And this is what I mean. So when you get that, like if you're seeing these guys pulling guard and they're throwing their brother down, and there's a couple that's going on over there. I'm not gonna say the names that's going on over there, but one of them admitted he uses it as an Dumog umbrella term. But this going back in terms and manufacturing them to suit your needs, that is what's creating a laughing stock. In other words, what is true Dumog, for instance? Like if we were to explore this, like why the outside perception looking in, using Dumog as an example, like there.
Listen,
You know
I'm
what I mean?
assuming they have some kind of grappling system, but I haven't found it yet.
That's my point. Like, so what
Now,
is it? Was it a term that was created in an Asano Academy? Because when you say Dumog over there, half of them never even heard of it, right?
so although my instructor, my Kuntao instructor, said that they have Dumog and Buno, and I don't
know. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the other word I heard, but I heard this back in the 80s and 90s too. But I'll use the term Dumog, and I'll be very clear. Now listen, and then I'll say we're going to do Dumog. Now, guys, what is our Dumog? Well, it's small circle jiu-jitsu. Great. Okay, so you understand that. Why do I use the term Dumog? Because you're using a Filipino term because you're teaching a Filipino class. Thank you. But we talk about the origins of our material.
Right, yeah, but you're being explicit. There are some that are just using the term and they're throwing it there for financial gains. Let's just be honest.
Well, right? And that's it. I mean, they're selling out. There's no question that people are
and it's
changing things and doing
a lot over there, to be honest. This is a good question. Do you see a future in FMA and law enforcement, and is it a benefit? I think it would be incredibly beneficial, again, context and showing realistic stuff that's been pressure tested to a certain degree, knowing that you're not assuring 100% outcome. The person that would be really good to talk about this, who I'll be bringing back on, would be Brent Pierce. He's under WPM and all that. He's ex-law enforcement, has an FMA background, but I think absolutely. Is there a future as far as funding and money and like that? I can't answer. There's a bunch of variables there.
Well, let me make comments on that. So I was very fortunate. I'm part of a group called Sheepdog Combatives. We were based out of Virginia. Now we're based in New York. I've been attached to them for quite some time, and many occasions we've taught at the Virginia Police Academy and during DT recertification courses, as well as enrichment programs. Did a lot of scenario training, stuff of that nature. I am a civilian consultant, an adjunct instructor put on with a law enforcement group. So generally, LEOs will not hire civilians. And the other thing, too, is martial artists as a whole, the norm, are clueless and are too lazy to do the work to find out about procedures and what policies are. Teaching a police officer in your school is not teaching the police. And people have a tendency of not understanding the difference.
Well, they say, I work with law enforcement. Oh, you mean the cop that was attending your class?
Yeah. That's like, stop that. You gotta that stuff's got to go away because that is wrong and a lie. But since we are okay, let me find an appropriate one. This will work. Okay. So, because people are called bullshit. Oh, bullshit, Tim. Bullshit, Tim. Okay, sure, no problem. Okay, all right. Let me do this. Okay. So, this is us teaching. This is back in 2018. Blade concepts along with other stuff. Does that guy look familiar? Sure. You might recognize two guys there.
I recognize two guys there.
Yeah, PG Chad is attacking me with a knife. Yeah. And we're going through our whole sequence.
But here's the thing, though. Blade Concepts is not fully FMA.
Right. So I'm doing my EDT program.
Yeah.
And the Blade Concepts, that's the program that John McClane, and yes, it is the same. That's his name he goes by on the internet. So he doesn't.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's a PG Thai teaching in the academy. Yeah, my knives. Okay, there we go. There's Mr. McClane on the right. There's PG Thai on the left.
Yeah, McClane, great. Talk to McClane. Great. Invited me to come down there. It just was during the week, and it just wasn't happening.
I get you. So
a very, very nice guy. Yeah.
So we've done this stuff. So it annoys me, and I'm not. This is not about showing off. This is about talking about knowing what you're talking about. And like I said, I think Filipino martial arts are great for law enforcement. The problem is the people who would be teaching them have not done the research they need to help. And
that and
potentially,
depending the module or the need that is being elicited from the law enforcement, I see a lot of these guys, they haven't pressure tested any of their stuff.
Right.
And now they're going to go give it, and I'm sorry, that's an issue, particularly with that sharp, pointy stuff.
Yes. I mean, so like McClane and I have known each other. I mean, I've been teaching him since whenever Perfect Weapon came out. So it was in the early 90s. So, and this guy eventually was worked some high-speed jobs, and we used to train together all the time. He knows, I mean, he felt very comfortable putting me in that role to help out. I've been doing that since about 2007. And when it comes to talking procedures, it's all him, because I'm not qualified to talk about procedures. We went through the material. He goes, all right, I want you to teach this. And you can't teach this because of X, Y, and Z. Thank you. All right. And he gave me the guidance I needed to get through this. Most martial artists of any type couldn't do this stuff. Also, the thing here is a lot of times you only got a day to go in and do something, or maybe two. And the problem with most martial artists, they overskill everything, and listen,
or codified or complicated.
They're always trying to teach well beyond the skill set of the people in the room. Like, oh, Tim, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do that. I go, why wouldn't you do that? Well, because of this. I go, let's get it straight. You wouldn't do that because you've got decades of training. These guys don't. You need to teach to their skill. Unfortunately, too many people in the martial art world in general teach to themselves. They want to do what they want to do, and they don't consider the needs at times, or the skills, or the restrictions in the case of law enforcement.
Yeah.
And that's the big one. They've got their hands tied. And it is one of the hardest jobs out there, because they demand such a high level of there's such a high level of expectation, but they give them the least amount of funds and training and stuff for them to do.
I mean, Chad Edward was just mentioning, we were just talking the other day, we're doing something together, and funding. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. All right. So right here we go. Dumont is generic for wrestling around. Okay.
There you go. Anything can be thrown on, and everything's being thrown underneath that umbrella, John. Sambo, jiu-jitsu, grappling, anything.
There's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Steve Tarani. He's another guy.
Steve Tarani. Yeah. I interviewed. Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, yes. So, the thing here is, generally speaking, civilians do not get civilian contract or law enforcement contracts or military contracts. There are always an exception. So I'm not going to say it can't happen. What I'm saying the norm is. Furthermore, I got in because I was attached to a group.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right. You knew I mean, obviously knowing some folks, man, is going to be, and usually though, if it's that's usually how it works. I mean, you knew somebody.
And because of that, I got to see a lot of things that most people don't.
Yeah.
I got to see a lot of crime footage, pictures and stuff, and videos and all this other stuff that we used for the class and other things. And, you would be surprised out there. The quantity of violence does not hit social media anywhere near as much, and I'm not trying to shock anyone, but here's the problem here is you got the Filipino martial artists who would go in and start doing shit, and they would overskill and overkill.
Or they didn't test it out, and they're just giving what was handed to them because they.
Well, I mean that's a whole. So there's two problems. One, the material they're teaching hasn't been vetted by them. And listen, I love what I do. I hate to find out when my students have been forced to use what I've taught them, but it's satisfying to know that it hasn't failed them. Yeah. So I've got I had a cop prior to COVID who was coming in all the time, Buffalo City cop, and he was constantly using the locks and controls I was teaching him, and then we would refine. So he was my he was my man in the field to do extra research. I already knew the material worked. I came up from more of a street environment, and I understood on how shit would actually go down versus what we do in the laboratory, aka the studio or dojo. But you know what? We are really going down a completely different rabbit hole. So we got.
I know. But I mean, yes and no though, because it swings back around the outside community looking and seeing.
Hey, Raymond, watching.
Oh, hey, Guru. There's a good guy right there.
Hey, next time I'm over, we should meet. And I'm always looking to make new friends over there. Which may be November. I keep that quiet a little. So that was that for that question. I think we have a lot to offer, but I don't think everyone in our industry should be the ones offering it.
Yeah, I mean, something of that magnitude, and I think they do a pretty good job there. And the reason why I know is because I know Chad Edward, who he's kind of working with, and his couple of WPM students. I'll leave it at that. But because we've tested this, I mean, so, but yeah, much to your point, yeah, there's a lot, and it kind of ties in to the subject matter tonight. Like, one of the reasons the outside lens looking in, who really, there's no way they're going to cross over there because they're seeing what you said, cosplay.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is like, I know one of the students that's part of the team that also does the program and was asking me, was having problems teaching at the academy. And it wasn't the material, it was the presentation. And the big question was how to overcome some of the objections, because he was showing a way to hide the knife and all this other stuff. And unfortunately, someone was standing over there. That person was able to see everything. And of course, well, you're doing. I'm like, and it should have been. I gave him some ideas how to overcome the situation, because it's like, listen, here's what you do: is you do one-on-one, and say, listen, I want the rest of you to watch this, and from your and don't rule in the secret. You'll probably
he was. I think that was one of the first time he was doing it, and probably just got a little. He's got it down to a freaking science, man.
So well, we went. I mean, we went over we did a whole private just on presentation with my seminar experience. I'm like, how do you overcome these things? I'm like, listen, this is how you do. Now you make the other guys and say, now tell him what he missed. Oh, there's a knife right here. Whoa.
Right. And the people on silent, they shouldn't be saying anything if somebody's out there,
No, but the problem was is he didn't know how to present.
No. I get you. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I understand.
Okay, here's the thing. Teaching a room full of people is an art form.
Oh, no. I mean, it's a skill.
And I got that art down. So that's why when we talked about it, he's like, I never thought of it that way. And we got, like I said, and this is all, that crew was, well, obviously that was the original Sheepdog stuff before they started hooking up with you. So we've had a lot of experience doing that stuff too as well. So, but let me see this. What's this? I hope you guys can visit Manila. I'll come for you. I come over there on a regular basis. Dean hasn't been over yet. Although I told him he can hang with us next time we go.
I have permission to tag along.
Did you get permission from the significant other?
That has been starts with an N and ends in an O for status.
Is that because of how long you're going to be away from home?
Status quo is that, and basically the pending argument is due to the duration of my leaving. Yeah.
Okay. What if we bring her to Barbados?
She would be probably more inclined to that because.
And then letting you go afterwards to the Philippines.
It's worth at this point. Anything is worth.
Okay, there we go.
Can't hurt, right?
Oh, there we go. Okay. Tuan is watching me teach young guy who was going to the police academy. I was focusing on basic fundamentals from the past life. I remember Renee commenting.
What's that? What's that?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, we've had a lot of people watching the show. So now that we talked about the law enforcement, listening back to this. So first of all, there are a lot of groups, I think, that are moving forward. I think they're going to be strong. I think
a lot. What do you define a lot?
No, I'm sorry. I think PTK is moving forward, and there's a lot of good guys in PTK. I also think some of the branches of PTK are going to go away.
Like I hear some names I'm just going to name because they're moving forward. Let's do that. And I won't identify the ones who I think are going to run into some trouble areas 10 to 20 years from now.
Okay.
So let's do that. I think Hero and Manila, I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Hero.
They got some there. They got reps, throughout there. They got, Arnold's got, for instance, Guru Ramon. He's got some up and coming people that can fulfill. However, I'm going to leave this very, people can take it where it is, but that doesn't speak for all the KI factions. So I think they're fine. We identified Jared's. I think Jared's faction, the way it's going, I think it's safe to say
Jared's rock solid. He's got young people. He's relevant,
charismatic. He's got young folks coming in, and absolutely.
And his stuff. They fight. The spar is a big portion, and he's in the combatives world, which is going to have
IV. Combatives. Aspect of it, the TRICOM.
So he's on point.
I think there's obviously, there will be obviously the Asano blend is going to be fine because you've got some major schools that have been going that have been under Guru Dan for decades, and they've kind of got folks there. I think the Asano blend is going to be fine. Kabbalists, I can't really speak on that. I don't have enough information, so I'm not sure on that.
It's been a regional martial art.
Mostly in California for the most part. You got Nick Merchant in New York who's trying to, So
you don't see a lot of Serrata outside of California.
No, I think that's fair.
Here we go. Let me see. Guy, sir, modern community guy, all the way watching. Oh, thank you, sir.
Let's just identify. Okay, so let's look at Balintawak.
Balintawak. Okay. Okay.
So pending what faction? Are we talking?
Well, I think Balintawak can go forward, but the thing here is if it's going to be based as a standalone system, it doesn't have the chops to stay in because
Bobby Tabato's got enough level 7 guys that they can probably be perpetuated, right?
Oh no,
Bobby's got a ton of level 7 guys that are significantly younger than GM Bobby. That could question there is going to be who is he leaving, quote unquote.
Well, the problem. Okay, here's what I would say. I don't know of any Balintawak schools out there. I know of schools.
I know, but if we get into schools, man, that's going to get more depressing. I'm talking about systems as a whole.
I think they will be fine overall because there's
multiple branches
of Balintawak I think Bobby's is the strongest.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be fine, especially in America. I think he's gonna be absolutely fine in America. Let's go. Let's talk about lightning science. I don't
think they have the bench strength to pull that off.
I mean, I've done plenty of interviews. I honestly don't have enough information to know if they will be able to continue to sustain. I of course hope they do and can.
And listen, I think we want all the arts to move forward.
Of course.
So when we talk about this is concern from outside viewers watching.
Yeah. And we're just identifying your bigger systems now, just to give some context to our conversation so people can kind of see what so we identified lightning scientific. So let's go Heron system. I mean, I know there's Kirk McCune. He's got
Mahalana and proper. And then you've got the split offs of those.
Well, you got Multi-Stockton. You got Kurt McCune, Bahalana. Then you got Mike Carone.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough. I know it's kind of California centric. I know that Tuhan Harley is under Kurt. I think Kurt might have a few other guys there, but I couldn't tell you if this is sustain. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, I would say if something happened now, I don't think it would go well.
I mean, Multi-Stockton, we were up there in Saratoga, and one of the questions I asked him, hey, man, I like what you're doing with the kids. Is that still going? I was asking Terry this.
Yeah.
Because I thought that what they were doing with the kids was phenomenal. He said it's kind of gone down. So.
And I think that's a post-COVID type thing, too. So.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Okay, so we identify that. Let's go. Dose Paris. I think Dose Paris is going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they got their headquarters in Cebu. I think there's enough that they'll stand the test of time, right? Or you know what I mean?
Yep.
What are big systems? I should know this by all the interviews I've done. SAOC. I think SAOC will continue because you got the Suns and you got Tuan Tom that's still doing. I think within America, I think the SAOCs will be. I think they'll be okay for how long? I mean, I don't know, but I think they'll be good. You know, I used to be in contact with Atienza because I was a rep for them, but I don't know where they are as far as reps in there. So it wouldn't be fair for me to say anything on that. Okay, give me some names.
Okay.
We did it.
FCS. So they're asking about FCS.
FCS. Filipino Combat Systems. I think in America they'll probably be. I think he's got quite a few reps, right? You know what I mean? And as a matter of fact, I know he's got people in Europe. So I think. And I don't think Ray's that old, right? I mean,
so Ray's got he's got a bunch of instructors underneath him. The question is, how many students do those instructors have?
Tony asked a great question. But
I know, I'll bring it up in a minute. But I mean, with FCS, and this is what you have to do with any system.
Yeah.
I know. Okay, they say FCS has got a lot of instructors, or but
reps. I mean, Europe.
How many? I remember reps, but how many students do those groups have?
I think
I know a few that are only about 5.
Pretty good. I think they're doing. I've seen some of the seminar picks. I know I'm really good friends with Patrick. He lives in California. Really good guy. He's under them, and I see his pictures. Man, it's pretty well. I mean, there's some folks there. So I would have to guess that they're going to be, based on what I'm seeing and hearing, I think they're going to be okay.
Lifelong Taekwondo and FMA hit me like unhonest, unholy ghost.
Okay, so let me hear your thoughts on the range. Okay, when we get, let's finish what we're talking about first before we go over.
Okay, all right.
Dose pairs we identified. Yep. Folks, if you're watching, throw some systems. I don't mind answering Tony's question. I really don't.
We'll get there.
I can't believe after all these interviews, I'm actually like drawing a blank here. This is ridiculous.
Come on, okay, let's go on. The elephant in the room, modern Arnis. You haven't even brought that one
Right.
up.
Okay. Well, my opinion, obviously, you know better than I do, but based on the fact that all the interviews I've done, I've seen all that, I don't see you guys in trouble. But I'm not saying I'm right. You know?
I
mirror you. I'm just looking at the systems I'm forgetting. Like an idiot.
no. My issue with modern is that I know my group is not in trouble.
Okay.
But then I look at a bunch of people out there who are alleged leaders. They don't have a following to lead.
Okay.
So
okay.
I mean, well, let's talk about a subsystem. What about Bram Frank and his common self-defense?
I think some of the smaller ones like that, I think it's just going to be tough, man.
But that's a modern Arnis. That's allegedly in the modern Arnis family. Dan Anderson just closed his school. Brian Zielinski teaches out of his garage or basement. Not many people there.
But you got Jackie. She's got the school, right?
With 30 people.
Yeah, but that's 30 people for an FMA. I mean, starting out.
Remy lost. When Remy died, we lost 80 to 90% of our people.
That's wow. I mean, that's a lot. Wow.
So, and the thing here is this. Okay. People can make all these comments, and the people who are making these comments, Modern East is big, Modern East is big. No, you've gone to some big events, but you think this is big. It just means you weren't out there when Remy was around, because when Remy was around, he was doing 2 seminars a weekend, and they would average 70, 80 people per seminar in 2 separate seminars every weekend. So Brian does an event every 2 years, and he pulls. Allegedly, he broke 100 on his last event.
Right.
That's every other year to do that. Remy was doing probably 50 seminars and 8 training camps a year, and he had those numbers through everything.
Yeah, but when I look on like seminars that are going on in the upcoming months, like whether it's GM Bruce, you or these other guys, I mean, I'm seeing modern Arnis activity. There are some systems I'm not seeing any activity in the States. So that tells me that you guys are in better shape than most. I'm like, there's just some systems I'm not seeing any, unless it's in a small town, they're just not using social media, whatever. But there's some really small systems. I'm not going to name one system just because it's, I don't know how the system's going to survive in a few years from now. But and again, like you have some big names, but there's only going to be like a faction out of that big name that's really going to propel. You know what I mean? And the other ones, they've been kind of eating their exhaust, and I think it's going to be tough for them to sustain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just looking if I missed any bigger. I'm guessing no, because
Comaton's pretty strong.
Oh, Comaton, that's that. Okay, there you go. That's a big one, right?
Yeah. Anaya and Eskrima.
Anaya, that's kind of California centric, though, isn't it?
Well, no, because then if you remember, there's multiple branches. Because if you follow Emmanuel Hart,
so it's not fair for me to.
Yeah, Emmanuel Hart's in Europe, so he's got a following over there. Here's one which I've known nothing of. I mean, I know Baras.
He's based out of the Philippines. I know he's definitely got a few folks here in America. He's got some up in the Netherlands area, I believe. It's kind of like what I do in Blade Tech, very knife centric defensively. Although I have offense. Empty hand against knife is not the hottest topic. So I don't, hopefully they will, but I don't know.
I'm going to say they need to do a lot of work to get there. As far as Cinco Terros, it depends on who. There's so many people who use that term. So
it's such a generic, like.
Yeah.
Now
here's
one. Here's one. The Campo. The Campo, Jose Cabello, His grandson is definitely doing something. Then you have Eric Ovidas is doing something. So you have a couple different factions. Wonderful stick art. The blunt weapon, the main system, as far as what Lameko blunt weapon. Hopefully they do. I know the grandson is trying to do everything he can. I know Mangi Ergovitas is still doing some stuff over here. There's some guys I think that are doing it, a couple in California.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's on the smaller end, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I want to sit there when I talk about people in these styles. When I talk about these systems, I'm used to hanging around karate and taekwondo, which numbers are significantly different. So I have a different standard. I'm going by a completely different scale.
Oh my God. He has another question. Dog Brothers, Tony.
No, I'm going to get there, but here we go. Right here. So now Sikaran is huge. Absolutely huge.
See, that's your guy's area. Oh, huge. Where? Over there.
Oh, even in the States and Canada.
Where's the state? Sikaran is huge in the States?
Like in California, it's very big.
Okay.
And then Canada, there's multiple places. There's schools in Jersey, but because it is an open hand system and doesn't interact with the other Filipino martial arts as a whole, they have a tendency of being overlooked. Now, as far as the Baez Tres Manos, I don't know.
I gotta be honest with you, I've never even heard of it.
Okay, that's two of us. All right, so let's hear this. Okay,
Yan. I mean,
Yan's getting more popular.
Sikaran, right?
Big in the Philippines, but it's not big over here as much. But here's we go. I got one here. Okay. Here's the problem with this, Tony. There's two definitions. There's Dog Brothers fighting, and then there's DBMA, which is Dog Brother Martial Arts.
Yeah, the martial art.
And the thing here is, I don't think Mark has a huge following for the martial system, but the movement of Dog Brothers fighting, I think the Dog Brother fighting platform or MMA stick fighting is much bigger than his martial system, although a bunch of people learn the material to make their fighting better, but I don't think there's that many people doing the martial system, though I could be wrong.
Mark, I can't speak on how many he's got in a program of DBMA. I mean, he could have, I don't know. And I know there's some Dog Brothers who do both just by virtue of interviews. I think the thing to do to figure out what Dog Brothers would be interesting. What is taken overall as like, what is the metric? Like, what is the age, the average age of a Dog Brother, and how many younger folks you got in there, and what is the influx of younger? And obviously, I don't have the answer to these questions.
No. Well,
but I would love for Dog Brothers. I mean, to me, I have profound respect for them, not just by interviews. I'm friendly with some of them. I have really good relationships with some of them. And I hope that is something that continues. It'd be a really shame to see that.
But I'm pretty sure that most of the people who do Dog Brothers fighting are not Dog Brothers students. Like case in point.
I don't know. I know there's some. I've interviewed the.
I know there's some out there, but like Craig Mason, who's a phenomenal fighter.
No, I know. I would say not the majority, right?
Yeah. So I think if the activity's still going, that's all that matters. He goes international. I don't know, Tony. And then fighters are getting younger.
Well, that's a good sign.
But that's a fighting program, not necessarily a martial system.
Yeah.
Which is like it's like if it's becoming like boxing, because I mean, actually, Dog Brothers fighting is becoming like boxing and kickboxing, where it's an activity people go and there's different gyms that produce different fighters, and Mark has his own gym DBMA method.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's good. I mean, I've talked to a few, and they have some concerns about the growth.
Yeah.
But I think it would be interesting. What is the average age of the dog? You know what I mean? And how many? But again, I can't say this enough. I really hope they keep going. I just think they're building men.
Yeah. Well, we keep going down. Is there anything else there? Are we on point on this?
I don't know what you got comments coming in or questions. So
I don't see any more. I'm waiting to hear something from Sabu. Ultimately, here's the thing.
Oh my God, it's almost. Oh my, how that flew. We're like at 10.
Yeah, an hour and a half. Exactly. That's why I was asking.
I'll answer Tony's question on Lameko.
Okay. I forgot all about it.
What's interesting I talked to David.
Let me go first.
Okay.
Okay. Because I want to sit there and say this. So also, if it ends up being similar to you, I'm the one that said it, and I'll take the brunt of it. I don't think Edgar. Well, I'm going to go a different route. I don't think Edgar was around long enough to really have successors and a group to move forward in a manner that he needed for the art to go forward. I think they've done a great job up until this point, but I think a lot of these guys. I mean, we already lost Valencia. It was probably the most known student, most known disciple. Who's a bigger
Roger,
name?
Ariel,
Roger?
Dino Flores.
Okay,
I don't know.
All right.
I mean, he was up there. Don't get me wrong. Felix was up there. I don't know if he was the most well known. I mean, he could be right. I don't know. They were prolific.
I didn't know of Roger until I bumped into him at a seminar. So, yeah. I mean,
Roger. Yeah, I think Felix's name was, at that time, was probably fair to say was more known than Roger.
And he had the Century video series, along with the TSR series, and
but there was a lot of things going on back then. So, in other words, he had Dan. He wanted Dan something. Was supposed to be the president, from my understand. But then Leonard Trigg got to take it over. It didn't go to the backyard guys. I don't want to go really deep into this because no. But short of the long is, I talked to Dave tonight. He's got a group going down there in Mississippi. It was really nice talking to him. Obviously, Tony's doing his under Felix. Roger's doing his thing. I think Dino and Ariel doing their thing. I think there's some activity, obviously, in Europe. I mean, if there's one system if you were to give me one system, I want to see Lamego. I am pulling for them. I hope they grow and continue. I really, really do.
Hey, Rich, how you doing? And then
hey, Rich.
Eric O'Brien, Major Twirl.
Oh, Jesus. Somebody picked me up. I was getting my hands.
Let's wrap this up, but let's do this. As a whole, not any one system. What do you think people need to be addressing? I've got a few things in my mind to give their systems, the best chance of surviving after they're done teaching.
In other words, let's just say I have 200 members and I reps and all this. I'm on my way out. I want to leave in good hands so it continues to go. Is that your question?
Yeah, or what do you need to do now to get to the place where when it comes time to stop teaching, and if you're concerned about it going beyond you, which I think we've already established that you and I both feel the same way when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So what do we need to do to establish its best chance of surviving in the future? What can we do today to help the next generations, or to ensure that there is a generation after us?
Simply have systems in place. Okay, number one.
So a curriculum of some sort.
Well, not just curriculum though, but like systems. Like, having a system of getting new people in, having a system of checks and balances, having a system of communication, having a system of camps, having a system of meetings where you get the head together so everybody knows on the same plane with the common objectives. Like in WP, I'm speaking in terms like how we handle WPM, which is really a fine, well-oiled machine. But you got to have a system in place. So when you do go, the systems become culture. You have to establish a culture. And if you have an established culture, just because you're gone, if the other people are really part of that culture, they will continue it. They will.
I look at things all the time, and I'm constantly. I've joined groups and organizations, and I'm shocked on how there's no onboarding system or process.
I know.
I go to a training camp.
It's more common. I think it's more common than what we're talking about. Right?
I can't believe in how many times I've gone to tournaments, and like 15 minutes before an FMA tournament, 15 minutes before it starts, they turn to me and say, hey, and long story short, we don't know what we're doing. They don't come out and say that. Hey, would you help out?
Well, they start asking you questions. Hey, what would you do what would you do here? Hey, what do you suggest?
like like we're about to start a tournament. They don't even have a scoring system in place. I'm like, really? And like I had like 15 minutes in the tournament. It was my tournament after that. I mean, I didn't get the billing for it, but I mean, nor the pay. But people saw that I saved the day, and then I was like, all right, we're going to have Hartman around a lot more because he actually knows what he's talking about. Keep things going. So, developing this culture is a huge thing.
Culture, I'm telling you, culture, because you can leave if you have a really built-in culture and people believe in it and they buy into it and they like it. They will perpetuate it because they believe in it and they're enjoying it and it's giving them something because they're there. They will continue.
And here's the thing: the culture can't be a secret. You can't have
no.
You can't have the game plan on how to pull this off.
Matter of fact, you can't have a culture. You're making a secret. So the culture has to start from the top, and of course goes down, not just the upper echelon, but more importantly, the student body.
Yep, there you go. I think another thing we need to do is you need to have young blood now, preferably children are the way we got to get there. The future,
depending on the nature of what you teach.
But at the end of the day,
here's the other thing. We keep talking about young and all this. I mean, one of the things I'm doing in WPM right now, and I just started yesterday, I got a female to come and hope she does, is females. I know we talk about children and all that, but man, we need to increase, I think, female participation as well. I think that's just as important.
Yep. I mean? Okay. Here we go. Datu, if you could open up a biz after other endeavor. Actually, everything I do is martial art based. I do martial arts supplies. I do martial art events. It's all martial arts. So there's some hobby things I like to do, and I wouldn't mind doing a little antique store and stuff like that, or maybe like the man cave type stuff. We love doing collectibles, but a hobby store because that was always good for me coming up.
Ferd made a really good point.
And here we go. Ferd's got a great one here.
That is so true. Yeah.
And Ferd, welcome to the show.
I mean, again, having systems in place, right?
Yeah. Listen, you can't, you cannot achieve a goal that hasn't been shared with you. So
or perpetuate it.
When we're talking about our students and talking about like, okay, let's say training them for black belt / instructor / whatever you want it to be, fill in the blanks. They need to understand what the product is supposed to look like. They need to understand what what our goal is. Okay, if we're traveling somewhere, where's the destination and all this? Where is our destination? And it can't happen if we don't share and don't make things happen. I mean, we don't.
I'm just looking at this. I just got a question for. Is it? I don't want to do abominations. Is it Michael? Is that?
Miko?
Miko? Is it Miko?
Maybe.
My question to him is: he says Kronk Boxing. I want to know, like the Kronk Gym, Detroit. Kronk. Yeah, I'm just curious if he is listening and hears it.
Yeah. So, yes.
That's awesome, man. Like famous right hands. Wow. I mean, Emmanuel Stewart, leverage. Wow, nice.
Yeah. So, what came up a feat, a street fight came up, and a guy just come out of the back and just stabbed the guy in the back in the middle of the fight.
Charming.
Yeah, great. So I think we need to have younger people involved. We need to put these systems in place to onboard, to help people get elevate. We need achievable goals. And I think other little things that are overlooked. We're trying to develop a culture, a team. So you should have the team look alike, like having a uniform. Like, I'm not saying a full blown uniform, matching T-shirts. it makes a difference in the attitude. When I tell you, we're out and about doing stuff, and we go, and all we're doing is wearing matching T-shirts. You really jump out, and it pops, and it makes you feel part of everything.
But again, developing a culture, right?
Yeah. Go to a sporting event. How many people are wearing jerseys of your favorite team?
Yeah.
So it makes you part of it. Is how
and you have to create unity. A big thing with something you want to go, you have to create the culture that there is zero tolerance for bickering and infighting. We are a cohesive unit. We move forward together. We work together. Our goal is to maximize personal performance. This is stuff I give to WPM. This is our mission. This is our goal. So it creates this unity. We're all the same in this. We're all trying to prove. Like if you create that culture, it's more likely to go forward because nobody's getting favoritism. You don't have nepotism and all that crap, which leads to fractions, right?
Yeah, my organization, there's no politics.
You do favoritism. No, just kidding.
Yeah. I show extra attention to those who put in extra effort.
Yeah, I think that goes there, but I try to be. I tell you, that's a great point you brought up because I catch myself and I hold myself accountable to this, man. Because you start doing that, and the person who maybe needs that lift to get them. So, I get what you're saying because I'm guilty, but. You gotta navigate those waters. You
gotta help everybody. You gotta
navigate those waters carefully.
When I teach my classes, I work the room.
Yeah,
I make sure
as well as you should. You gotta go around everybody. Everybody's important in there, and you better freaking make them feel, man, that they count and matter. Because they'll go somewhere else as well as they should.
I will teach extras to people who can handle it. But then again, a lot of times I'll do extra effort with the person who needs that help. Or let's partner up and I'll take the person who needs me the most in the room. Yeah. And generally I don't want to partner up in the room because back in the day, it was more of my workout session.
Yeah.
And everybody in the room was part of that workout session. And then I realized, when I started developing better students, not that they weren't good students, but when I had better success developing students, is when I started taking myself off the floor as a participant and started putting myself more back into a teaching role.
Right.
And, the thing here is that, I don't work out anywhere near as much as I used to because I am teaching nowhere near as much as I used to back. Right now you can't compare. The numbers of teaching today is so much more than back in the day. Because back in the day I was on the floor as training partner. So my guys were good, but they were good because they had good training partners. Now they're better because they have a dedicated teacher that's doing the job. But I will go on the floor to partner with people when I have to.
No, that's another good thing to do. If somebody needs somebody in your,
when they need an extra boost, I'm like, here, come here. I'm in. Okay, we're doing Sinwales or we're doing drill.
Not to go down a rabbit hole here, but those who just stand in front of the room and just, I zone out. Like if you can't circulate, walk around, it's hard for me to.
So we need to identify and give them. We need to give them an identity. And Jason, very good. Tribe vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
In a healthy manner.
Yeah. Where it's not cold, right?
See, I think that's the negative stuff about us. Is sometimes we've got that negative tribe vibe.
Well, usually then you start hearing the word cult being thrown out.
Yeah, and
goes hand in hand, right?
But overall, I think Filipino martial arts has everything it needs out there, but I think some systems are deficient, and what I mean by that is they might be a full study, a full field of study, complete field of study of their theme, but people need more than weapon fighting out there, and that's where the cosplay comes in. When they're only showing weapon fighting,
they're gonna have to market the crap out of it, or when they touch upon the other stuff, they have to make a cosplay for views.
Right.
Again, the whole aspect of it is aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
I think
if you think about it, FMA has some very aesthetically pleasing drills. Let's face it, man, they really do. I mean, it's beautiful to watch. I mean, but it doesn't translate, of course, obviously, in there. And that's what. So what guys are doing is they're getting these views via social media of this cosplay, which is they're hoping will translate into dollars, student enrollment, or what have you. But at the same time, if they know that, they're part of the problem in selling out, right?
so. Mark Medeiros wants to know what he missed. We just gave everyone the meaning of life, and
Yeah.
I really can't help you with that. So, describe FMA in 5 words. Favorite band.
5 words: passive aggressive. Oh my gosh. In 5 words. Ooh. Um. Potentially all-encompassing system. Potentially all-encompassing system. Now that's 4. I'm going to go over 5 words. Great cultural art and experience. Great cultural art and experience. There's 5, but I don't know if it's the best. Great cultural art and experience.
I'll tell you mine. Best decision I ever made.
Best is I like that.
So
yeah.
So here's it's best decision I ever made. So now listen. I interact with a lot of people outside of Filipino martial arts in the martial art world. So I look at our numbers compared to others, and I've seen schools close and training groups disappear with double, triple, quadruple the numbers that we've had. So that's why I'm very apprehensive about things.
I think compared to others, I think you guys are fine.
You know, and I'm talking about like karate, taekwondo, and stuff like that. I've seen things disappear and not do well. I've seen too much as of late in Modern East and other systems as well. People focusing on promoting each other without producing anything. And at the end of the day, how does promoting people help us? We need to generate more students. And that's the issue that I'm seeing right now. That's how he goes, hey, Mark Medeiros, bro, yeah. Aesthetics, technical, fulfilling, inspiring, perpetual.
That's a good one. Better than mine.
Obviously, everyone went to the whiteboard and tried to count out these words.
No, but it's a good one.
Matches, okay.
Which degree of black belt would you think or feel that you can teach the dim mock in? Oh my lord, that's a joke, right?
Matt's always trying to be funny.
Okay, the dim
operative word in that is try. So listen, I'm always concerned because I've seen things.
Yeah, I think it's great that you're concerned because you care and you want to see it go on. But when I look at just from, again, using FMA discussion as the metric for the interviews I've done and just seeing where these systems are as far as that, you guys are in significantly better shape than a lot of others,
Well, I want to know where those people are because I look at stuff and I'm like I told you, I gave you 3 names right there that there might, Anderson just retired. He's teaching part-time out of somebody else's school, allegedly. Bram's not teaching. And we've got, Brian's teaching out of his house.
Then you got GM Bruce, who's, I think, active, right?
To what level,
I can't say, but I think there's and you got the folks with the 30 students.
Yeah.
But it's activity. I'm not saying they're breaking records, but they're active, right?
Well, the thing here is, I'm looking at a bigger picture here. Activity is one thing, but what are they doing?
I know. I guess what are we
doing for the future?
They have to, yeah, but I guess what I'm alluding to is they have to start somewhere, I guess. And hopefully they will grow, and hopefully Jackie and her husband, hopefully they'll get an influx of younger people. And
yeah, that would be good. That would be good.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So and we're getting ready to wrap this up. Too many kids are hurting other kids for no reason at all. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, unfortunately.
When are you going to visit the Philippines again, Mark? I might be there in November. I got to be quiet about that.
Don't tell anybody.
Well, I just need to make sure that Janice doesn't hear me say that yet.
Oh my gosh.
Well, no, because I've been going every 6 months. So, and GM Bobby Tabuada's 80th birthday is this November, and it's supposed to be in the Philippines, and
big 8-0. Wow, God bless.
Yeah. So, I'm supposed to, so if not, I think March I'm going, or actually I might go to March either way. I'm probably going to be switching over to a yearly thing because I've got different groups that want me to take them now.
How do you suggest developing quantity without the loss of quality? Having systems in place, the culture. I mean, obviously that's always depending on the quantity, always can be an issue. But if
well, okay. Here's the question: Do you have realistic expectations, or are your expectations overdone? Here's the thing. No matter what, listen, Taekwondo gets a bad rap for some of the stuff. They are the biggest art being.
Not their business model.
They're the biggest. They're the most trained martial art in the world. There are more numbers doing Taekwondo than anything else.
I can believe it.
And of course, they're going to have quality controls because they have so many people. And I was talking, we did these after hours martial arts gatherings at this place, and we're talking, and the one guy, the Shotokan guy, was really upset about the Taekwondo. And I go, "Hey, Randy, you build houses, right? Yeah. Okay. So you build one house at a time, right? Okay, good. How hard would it be to build 2 homes at a time? Well, we'd probably have a little. He goes, what would happen if you were building 5 homes? There's no way in hell, Tim. The quality would be piss poor. We'd have to redo all the work.
Yeah, and expectations, knowing.
So now, when you're teaching one student, you can put all that time and effort in there. My expectation. Okay, I realized, based on the quantity of time that everyone was coming, I could teach my people more than anyone else had. Because in our system, we were the only school at the time that was dedicated teaching the art all by itself. Everyone else was maintaining another system, and this was the add-on program. So they had to split their studies. And at the end of the day, it always boiled down to it was karate or taekwondo or whatever first. When people couldn't make it when I started doing more material and I started going and doing kids and all this other stuff, I realized that some of the stuff I put too high of an expectation. I put my personal expectation on my students, and they're not me. So the thing here is, when we do things, do we have an unrealistic expectation for our people? So that's why when I start taking stuff and I start looking at my curriculum, I look at this. I've already set a standard because we use a black belt. So when I reproportion my system, I always say, is it the same amount of material to become a 5th degree black belt? And the answer is yes. But maybe some of those belts in between were too heavy. Maybe some were too light. So I'm always trying to reproportion. And at the end of the day, I'd rather do less things better than more things worse.
Yeah, less is more. Right? Sure.
Less is always more. So I think you can have those expectations, but maybe, like some karate systems, okay, back in the day, you were either white or black. And then they said, okay, brown belts are in there. And then they put in other belts and other belts. And I think maybe some of these systems, like Balinswalk, the original system, you were either a student or a teacher. There's nothing in between.
I think that was everything back in the day, to be honest with you.
So now like Grandmaster Bobby's program, there's 8 levels. And we said, no, there's only 7. He is the 8th level.
Oh, yeah. Whoever replaces him.
Yes. So he's level 8. I actually recommended that he should put 2 more levels in, talking about beginner, advanced, intermediate instructors or master instructors and stuff like that. But, whatever. But the thing here is, like, we have a 10-step system to become a black belt. Back at one time, there was only 4 belts or 3 belts or whatever. So now it's more
an
belts.
easy rabbit hole, though, man. They start going down,
Yeah, but then, or look at BJJ. Why is BJJ so hard? Why does it have to be so hard? I mean, that's the standard they put on themselves. And the funny thing was, when it first came out, when BJJ first hit the scene, you can go away to a weekend training camp and come back a blue belt. That's what it was back in the day.
Really? I don't hear. Wow, okay.
Oh no. That was early 90s when the UFC first.
Oh, when they first came out, and
and they so you could always up your standards. And the thing here is, if we're talking black belt is just an advanced beginner. Too many people have this mindset that it's the end, and it's just a new beginning.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that's also, again, what's the culture? Are they,
well, that's it. It goes back.
Like, are they saying it's the end? I mean, are they allude to it's the end?
There we go. So here we go. There's me in Portland, not breaking records, pushing towards the future.
That's all.
Okay, here we go. Taekwondo is big physical fitness in most of them. Transfer to others. Still, they have great kicks. Yep. BJJ locks you in a room barefoot with no weapons. Listen, we have more than all the other systems have. The only problem is we don't know how. If a bare minimum, you have some kind of system in place, curriculum, that will help light years. And you may end up changing on a regular basis, like I did. But the thing here is, if you have something in place, you can build from it.
Absolutely, and change it and modify it and keep up with the times.
And don't worry about it, because here's the thing: when you do something digitally, the ink never dries. You can always put on the next level. You can always update something, and and I don't worry about it. Oh, what am I going to do? I have a test coming up. So you test them on what you set them up for, and then just have make up stuff. I mean, make the difference up, not make up stuff. Make the difference up later. So, but hey, dude, we've been on this for almost.
I know, and I gotta go freaking for their birthday party this weekend. Go freaking paint a ceiling. Yay.
All right, brother. Well, listen, we'll end this here. Just stay on for a minute or two afterwards. We'll just touch base. All right. Do you have anything you want to promote while we're here?
No. I mean, what the hell? Can't hurt, right? A couple online seminars coming up. Grab and Stabs under Blade Tech. We got a couple camps. WPM Medusa coming in September. One in New York, one in Canada. So if anybody has any interest in those, the camps are a good way to get exposure. Great guys. We're not cult-like. Talk to anybody that's in there. Mark Medeiros is obviously part of that. He was just here. But thank you for that. But that's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Hey, I would like to do a show with you. We just did one. I want to do another show with you. About virtual seminars.
So virtual, what we should do though? I would go beyond the seminars, like just maybe virtual teaching.
Yeah, virtual. Yes, because I want to talk about. I have an issue. Okay, I don't like them, but I love them. I hate them and love them all at the same time. I don't want to talk about it now and then ruin the show, because it's the show.
I think it's a great topic because there's some systems that really lend themselves really well to a certain level. Okay,
and Mark, if you that message went to you, if you mentioned the word seminar in the comments, I have some keywords that when it's in a discussion on one of our platforms, it sends emails out to people. Just like anytime I say the word Renee gets an alert that he has to take a shot.
Remy. Oh my God. Oh, that was funny that one time. Oh my gosh.
All right. From Tijuana, like always, thank you guys. Thank you so much. Rich is a cult of one. Hey, when you getting in Buffalo, by the way? Because Rich is going to be in Buffalo. Because because you're not. Okay. Pardon my manners, gentlemen. Good evening, Datu Hartman and Guru Dean. All right, Red Baron 19. Thanks.
Oh, he's a really good guy. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, 2 hours. That was a good show.
Yeah, it was definitely. Yeah, I think the online thing.
It went so fast.
Really good. Yeah, I think it was, and not the audience, but there. But yeah, I think the online thing would be a really good topic because I think there's some systems really lend themselves really well to that. Like anything else, to a certain point, like WPM.
Yep.
Really good. But there's some systems.
I think the pros, the cons, and things you have to worry about all together.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great one.
And Ramon. All right, listen. As always, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
So this is Dr. Tim and
Dean, and thank you.
It's weird. I don't hear PG Tye. This is Dr. Tim and PG Tye. I don't hear that anymore. But Tye will be back. As much as Dean's trying to take his job, Tye will be back. He's just he announced it today. What his last day of work's going to be? It's going to be. Like
I saw that, and congrats.
Retiring, so he'll have more time. But
but here's the thing: it's already been established. I am the backup.
Oh, here we go. You're the best backup we've got.
So so it's no secret right now. If Tye can't make it, you asked me, "Hey, are you free?"
This is good. This talks about my bench strength. Here we go. Yeah. I've got bench strength.
And if I'm free, I said, yeah, sure. So it's well known I am the backup to Tye.
And Dean also knows anytime he needs someone on his show, I'm here for him. It's a two-way street. Support goes both ways. All right. And kick ass and take names. Thank you, Mike. Mike Miko. Is it? Yeah. Well, all right. Well, listen, I will see you all soon. Stay safe, everyone, and stay sane.